What is the good life? It is, perhaps, the oldest question humanity has ever asked, a question so ancient, so essential, that it has echoed through every civilization, every language, and every lifetime. A question that outlives empires, outlasts trends, and remains untouched by the passing of centuries. Not just a question scribbled in philosophy books or whispered in monasteries, but one that burns quietly inside every thinking soul. How should I live? Not just how to make it through the day, not just how to meet expectations or follow routines, not merely how to exist in a physical body, following the motions until the clock runs out. Dear brethren, share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Turn on notifications so you never miss an update that shows you are Divine One. This isn't just another video for the feed, but another piece of content to scroll you share. This was made for someone like you in mind. Someone who's tired, maybe not in body, but in spirit. Someone who needs to hear that their quiet strength matters, even when it's unseen. But something far deeper, something quieter, yet louder than the noise of the world. A longing to not merely draw breath, but to draw meaning from every breath. This question has been asked in every corner of the human experience. On the sun-drenched steps of ancient Athens, where Stoic philosophers once gathered to ponder virtue and the art of living. In the quiet cells of monks who renounced the world to discover their souls. In war zones, where people must wrestle with purpose amidst pain. In modern cities, inside crowded cafes, dimly lit apartments, noisy trains, where despite the chaos and connection, people feel a haunting emptiness and ask, is this all there is? It has been asked by emperors and peasants, by prophets and prisoners, by lovers in despair and thinkers in solitude, by the broken-hearted, by the successful who still feel hollow, by the young who feel lost, and the old who reflect with regret. It is not a luxury to ask this question. It is a human necessity, because survival is instinctive, existence is passive. But to live, to truly live, is a choice. To live with awareness, not just ambition. To live with purpose, not just productivity. To live with depth, not just decoration. What does it mean to live fully? To rise each day not merely to chase validation, but to stand rooted in meaning. To love without fear, think without manipulation, walk without performing. To confront pain without running. To find joy in silence, to let go of what corrodes your soul. To leave something better behind than what you inherited. That is the heart of the question. Not, how can I get more? But what is enough? Not, how can I win? But what does it mean to be whole? In a world that measures life by the metrics of money, followers, fame, and speed, we are quietly starving for something real. And so, even today, even now, that ancient question rises once again. Quietly, steadily, persistently. How should I live? Not just to appear alive, not just to perform success, not just to survive the clock, but to awaken, to feel, to create, to belong, to grow, to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. 1. The endless pursuit, when more becomes a mirage. We are born into a culture that teaches us to run before we ever learn to rest. From the very beginning, we're immersed in a system that whispers, then shouts, that we are not enough. Not yet. Not without proof. Not without possessions. Each day begins not with presence, but pressure. The moment our eyes open, the world begins its persuasion. That you need to hustle harder. That your worth is measured by your output. That happiness is a product of performance. That you must earn the right to feel fulfilled. Success is no longer a personal benchmark. It's a public performance. Happiness isn't felt quietly, it's displayed digitally. Life is curated like a marketing campaign, optimized for likes, applause, and the illusion of having it all. This modern script insists that fulfillment lies in the next job promotion, that peace will arrive once you drive a better car, live in a better zip code, wear a more expensive watch, that the good life exists in the distance, and you must exhaust yourself chasing it. And so we run. We run from task to task, from goal to goal, from achievement to achievement, never truly arriving, always reaching. But what if the race itself is the trap? What if chasing more is the very thing that keeps us from feeling enough? Because for all the upgrades, accolades, and acquisitions we collect, something still aches. Even the ones who appear to have made it often carry the quiet burden of emptiness. The millionaire lying awake with anxiety, the influencer who feels unseen outside the screen, the high achiever who has every outward marker of success, yet quietly wonders why they feel hollow inside. This is not a modern phenomenon. Suffering refines us the way a blade is sharpened on stone. It may not feel good, but it makes us useful, precise, focused. It pulls us out of shallow living and presses us toward depth. As Rumi wrote, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." Pain is not meant to ruin you. It is meant to wake you up. Viktor Frankl and the meaning in suffering. Few people have articulated the power of suffering more profoundly than Viktor Frankl, an Austrian psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor whose entire family perished in concentration camps. In the face of unspeakable horror, he made an observation that would form the foundation of his life's work. Those who have a why to live can bear almost anyhow. What Frankl discovered in Auschwitz was that suffering, though inevitable, does not have to be meaningless. It can be endured and even transcended when it is tied to purpose. The people who survived were not necessarily the strongest physically. They were often those who had a reason to hold on, a person they loved, a goal to pursue, a belief in something greater than their pain. This is the essence of the human condition. Suffering is not optional, but meaning is. And meaning can transform suffering from something that destroys you into something that deepens you. From wounds to wisdom. When you choose to face your pain, not suppress it, not avoid it, not numb it, something incredible happens. Wounds become teachers. Grief becomes compassion. Disappointment becomes discernment. Failure becomes fertile ground for growth. And suffering becomes a gateway, not to bitterness, but to humanity. We become more empathetic when we've been broken. We become more present when we know how fragile life is. We become more purposeful when we've felt lost. We become more loving when we've known the ache of loneliness. It is suffering, not ease, that teaches us how to love better, how to live deeper, how to become more fully human. The good life isn't painless, it's purposeful. The good life is not found in perfection or avoidance of hardship. It is found in how we choose to meet the inevitable storms. We don't get to opt out of pain, but we do get to choose what pain will shape in us. Will it harden you or humble you? Will it make you bitter or better? Will it shut your heart or open your soul? These are the questions that define the quality of your life far more than how comfortable it is. Because ultimately, a meaningful life is not a painless one. It is a transformed one. It is a life where suffering doesn't define you, but refines you. Where pain doesn't shrink you, but deepens you. Where hardship doesn't end you, but elevates you. Final reflection. If you are in pain right now, don't rush to escape it. Ask it what it's here to teach you. There is wisdom inside the wound. There is strength hidden in surrender. There is clarity on the other side of chaos. Let your suffering shape you, not into someone harder, but someone truer. That's the unseen gift of pain. That's the doorway most people miss. And that's how suffering becomes not just a burden, but a teacher. The power of alignment, becoming the person your soul recognizes. There comes a quiet moment in every life when the noise fades just long enough for a deeper question to rise. Am I really living as the person I say I am? This isn't about public image. It isn't about achievements, followers, or applause. It's about integrity, not in the moral sense alone, but in the structural sense. To be in integrity means to be whole, undivided, unified from within. Most of us spend our lives trying to succeed, but few stop to ask what kind of self they are building that success around. We chase goals, check boxes, meet expectations, often forgetting to notice the cost of the disconnection we tolerate in the process. Because here's the hard truth. You cannot build a deeply fulfilling life while constantly betraying yourself. You can gain influence, you can gain attention, you can gain approval. But if what you say and what you do live in two different zip codes, your soul will eventually call your bluff. Alignment is a form of power. Alignment isn't about perfection. It's not about being rigid or robotic. It's about congruence, where your inner world and outer actions begin to reflect each other honestly. When you live in alignment, what you value is visible in what you prioritize. What you promise is backed up by what you practice. What you believe is expressed through what you build. Your yes has meaning. Your no has boundaries. Your presence has weight. This kind of alignment generates a rare type of peace. Not loud, not performative, but deep, still, sacred. Because when you're no longer at war with yourself, everything else quiets down too. As the ancient philosopher Confucius once said, "The strength of a nation derives from the integrity of the home, and the strength of a life, it comes from the integrity of the self." The fracture. We often ignore. It's easy to drift away from who we are. Little by little, we compromise, we adapt, we fit in, we numb out. And suddenly, we look in the mirror and no longer recognize the person staring back. We laugh at things we don't find funny. We say yes to things that exhaust us. We chase goals we no longer believe in. We spend time with people who drain us. We pretend we're fine, when internally, we're starving for something real. That internal fracture may not be visible to others, but you feel it. You feel it in the exhaustion that doesn't come from work, but from pretending. You feel it in the anxiety that follows you, not because of pressure from the outside, but because of the distance from your inside. This is the cost of self-betrayal, and no amount of external success can compensate for that kind of spiritual fatigue. Most people don't lack motivation, they lack clarity. We often assume our problem is laziness, or a lack of discipline, or willpower. But the real issue, more often than not, is a lack of clarity. If you don't know what you stand for, how can you stand strong? If you don't know what matters, how can you make meaningful choices? The truth is, you can't live intentionally until you live honestly. You must confront yourself. What do I say I value? How does my current life reflect or contradict that? What am I pretending not to know? Where am I choosing comfort over truth? What am I tolerating that slowly erodes my soul? Clarity is uncomfortable, but it's also liberating. Because once you see clearly, you can begin to realign. You can start to reclaim yourself. The beginning of the good life. The good life doesn't begin with a raise, a vacation, or a relationship. It begins when you stop moving on autopilot. When you start asking hard, brave, soul-stirring questions like, who am I becoming? What kind of person do I want to be when no one is watching? What habits are shaping me without my consent? What must I walk away from, even if it's comfortable, to become more whole? Because the further you drift from your values, the louder the noise becomes. Confusion, chaos, discontent. They don't come from outside. They rise from within when our actions don't reflect our essence. But the moment you return to your truth, something shifts. You stop performing and start living. You stop chasing validation and start honoring your own voice. You stop reaching for things that numb you and start building things that nourish you. Even ordinary moments begin to feel sacred when you're not faking your way through them. Final reflection. Who are you when no one's watching? The world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more whole people. People who speak with clarity because they think with honesty. People who walk with confidence because they're not acting a part. People whose lives are not just successful, but sincere. So ask yourself today, where am I living out of alignment? What would it look like to live in such a way that my values, my words, and my actions all told the same story? That story won't trend on social media. It won't always be glamorous, but it will be real, and real is rare. In a world addicted to appearance, living in alignment is a quiet act of rebellion and a powerful act of self-respect. Relationships that nourish, choosing depth over performance. There's a certain kind of loneliness that doesn't come from being alone. It comes from being unseen, surrounded by people, yet still wearing a mask, engaged in conversations, yet rarely heard, liked by many, yet known by none. This is the illusion of modern connection. We gather followers, rack up views, attend events, and still feel empty in a crowded room. Because connection without truth isn't nourishment. It's noise. And no life, no matter how successful or impressive, is truly good if it is lived either in isolation or surrounded by pretense. The poverty of shallow company. We live in a time where relationships are often reduced to transactions, networks, optics, followers, and status games. But numbers don't hold your hand when life breaks you. Status doesn't show up when you're in pain. And applause cannot substitute for understanding. The good life is not about how many people know your name. It's about how many people know your soul. This is the difference between being recognized and being Risa. The man would later say that it was that moment, not a speech, not an award, not a photo shoot, that reminded him what it means to be alive. Not admired, not envied, just seen, loved, human. That is the essence of nourishing relationship, the freedom of realness. The good life is full of spaces where you don't have to shrink, stretch, filter, or prove. Conversations where silence is comfortable. Friends who call you out with love, not judgment. Relationships where you're not performing, just being. People who remember the sound of your soul, not just your resume. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, once said, "One of the most beautiful qualities of true friendship is to understand and to be understood." We weren't meant to walk this life alone. And we weren't meant to walk it wearing a mask either. Being loved for a persona will never satisfy your heart. But being loved for your truth, that changes everything. Connection that strengthens you. Real relationships don't just comfort you. They challenge you. They hold you accountable to your highest values. They mirror back the parts of you you've forgotten. They remind you of your strength when you feel weak. These relationships don't just reflect who you are, they reflect who you're becoming. They don't feed your ego, they feed your soul. And they are rare, precious, worth protecting at all costs. As Marcus Aurelius advised himself, associate with those who help you become the best version of yourself. That kind of company is not flashy, but it is transformative. Who are you letting sit at your table? Take a look at your relationships and ask, do these people nourish me or drain me? Do I feel more myself or less when I'm around them? Am I growing in their presence or shrinking to be accepted? Can I speak truthfully, or do I have to edit every word? Am I being celebrated for my essence or tolerated for my utility? If the answer disturbs you, don't ignore it. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world. Your peace is too sacred, your time is too precious, and your soul is too valuable to waste in rooms where you cannot be real. Final reflection. Life shared is life multiplied. What makes a good life isn't just what you accomplish, it's who you get to share it with. Find the people who ask you how you're really doing, and wait for the answer. Find the ones who speak truth with gentleness and love with fire. Find the friends who celebrate your wins and sit with you in your darkness. And above all, be that kind of person too. Be someone who listens deeply, shows up fully, and offers the kind of presence that nourishes rather than consumes. Because when all is said and done, it won't be the applause or the possessions or the pictures that stay with you. It will be the people, the laughter over dinner, the long walks, the quiet support during storms, the love that asked for nothing but your truth. Real connection is the heartbeat of a good life. Seek it, create it, protect it, and let everything else fall into place around it. Simplicity, stillness, and soulful living. The quiet art of a meaningful life. We often think of the good life as something loud, something visible, celebrated, measured in milestones and milestones only. A life filled with ambition, achievement, movement, and proof. Proof of progress. Proof of relevance. Proof of worth. But what if the good life isn't loud at all? What if it doesn't need to be seen to be real? What if it lives not in the noise, but in the space between the noise? Not in the clutter of activity, but in the clarity of presence. There is a quiet kind of wealth that many never discover. Not because it's far away, but because it's simple. And in a world that glorifies complexity and speed, simplicity can feel almost rebellious. The elegance of the uncomplicated. To live simply is not to live small. It is to live clear. To be full, without needing to be constantly filled. To be awake, without needing to be stimulated. To be present, without needing to perform. True simplicity is not about stripping life of its color. It's about removing what dilutes its depth. If this resonates with you, share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update.